You call this land productive? The man's voice cuts through the morning air like the crunch of gravel under designer shoes. You stand by the old wooden gate, hands rough, sun warming the back of your neck. Across the fence, his luxury SUV glints like polished arrogance, chrome wheels spinning dust that doesn't belong here. He's laughing, eyes hidden behind mirrored shades. "I've seen better dirt in a sandbox," he says, kicking the ground with a spotless loafer. The soil flakes off his shoe, leaving a faint brown smear that looks like it's mocking him back. You don't answer. You've met his kind before, city men who treat land like currency, not history. The ones who see fields as potential parking lots, not the graves of ancestors who tilled them. You let silence hang heavy. Silence has weight here. It makes the wind carry your side of the story for you. He clears his throat, pretending you're quiet unsettles him. "Name's Trevor Langford. I'm offering a deal you really shouldn't pass up. This place? It's just outdated. You sell, you move. I build something that matters." The words hit like stones thrown from far away. You look past him, at the horizon where rows of corn shiver under a light breeze. A hawk circles above the silo that's leaned the same way since your father's time. Everything on this soil carries memory. The chipped tractor seat, the oak that still bears a bullet from your grandfather's night watch, the dirt that once ran red in floodwater. You say, calmly, "It already matters," he snorts. "Right, to you. But progress waits for no one. We're putting in a golf resort. 28 holes, luxury cabins, infinity pool. This whole valley's about to get an upgrade." He slides a folded contract through the fence wire. The paper looks too white against your earth-stained hands. You don't unfold it. "Storm's coming," you tell him. He laughs. "Weather app says clear skies all week." You nod once. Weather app don't farm this land. For a moment, he just looks at you, like he's not sure if you're joking or dangerous. "So that's a no?" You finally glance at the paper. It flutters in the wind, unsigned, unwanted. "That's a never." He sighs, climbs back into the SUV. Before slamming the door, he mutters something under his breath, something about old folks clinging to dirt. Then he drives off, tires spinning through the dust your great-grandfather once plowed by hand. You lean on the fence post, watching his vehicle shrink into a heat shimmer. Then, you reach down, scoop a fistful of soil, and squeeze it until the grains slip between your fingers. The ground feels warm, pulsing, alive, familiar. Like a heartbeat you've known since childhood. Behind you, your neighbor's dog barks. Somewhere down the road, thunder murmurs where no clouds yet show. You turn toward that sound and whisper, almost to the wind. "You hear that, Daddy?" They still think the land's asleep. The wind answers in a low hum that rattles the dry cornstalks. People still argue. Whether it's superstition, that farmers feel storms before they come, but those who've lived through the right kind of silence know better. The air grows thick. The smell of metal creeps in, and birds vanish hours before the first drop falls. You've seen it too many times to doubt it. You brush dirt from your palms, head back toward the barn. The boards creak in rhythm with your steps. On the wall hangs your father's hat, dusted but waiting. You hang your own beside it, like a promise. As you lock the barn door, you notice something small, the corner of that paper contract caught under the fence. You pick it up, fold it neatly, and slip it into your jacket pocket. Not to sign, but to remember. Some offers aren't temptations. They're warnings. That evening, the horizon glows orange. The air turns heavy and still. The same SUV returns, this time with tinted windows rolled down and 2 assistants stepping out, holding tablets. You wipe your hands on your jeans, waiting by the gate again. Trevor smirks. "Thought I'd give you another shot before we file acquisition paperwork. Once we rezone, this land won't be worth the dirt under it." You tilt your head. "That a threat or a forecast?" He grins. "Both. The air tastes like copper now." Clouds crawl in from the south, low, wide, and dark as bruises. You glance upward. The sky's already shifting. "You might want to check that weather app again," he scoffs. "Rain doesn't scare concrete." "No," you say, "but it sure remembers where it used to flow." For a brief second, his confident smile falters. Then he drives off again, faster this time, the SUV leaving a black line of exhaust against the rising storm front. You stand still long after he's gone, the wind lifting your shirt, the scent of wet earth coming nearer by the minute. The farm seems to hum, like something waking. And before you head inside, you bend once more, press your palm flat against the soil, and whisper, "They'll learn, old friend. They'll learn." The first drop hits the back of your hand. By morning, the clouds are gone, but their promise lingers. The ground is soft, damp with warning. You step out with your coffee and watch mist crawl low over the rows like a ghost checking the fences. From the road, you hear the hum of engines again, not thunder this time, but men in orange vests, unloading measuring poles and equipment that gleams too bright for country air. Trevor Langford stands among them, barking orders into a headset. His voice carries, slicing through the quiet like a blade. "Survey this entire perimeter by noon," he says. "We're drafting the subdivision plan tonight." You lean against your porch rail, sip slow. You're not surprised. Men like him always think ownership begins the moment they point. "Morning," he calls when he spots you. "I didn't need your signature. Turns out your boundary lines are negotiable." He smiles like a man rehearsing charm. You don't answer at first. You let his crew hear the silence stretch until even the birds stop chirping. Then, evenly, "My family's owned this land since before you learned to say negotiable." His grin flickers. "Then you'll appreciate what we're offering. Modernization, employment, prosperity." "Prosperity don't come from stealing, you say?" He shrugs, as if ethics were optional. "We've got county approval. It's done." You walk down the steps, every boot tap on wood sounding like punctuation. "County don't own the ground? It just sits on it." Behind him, one of his workers whispers, "Boss, these readings don't make sense. The ground's shifting elevation near the west lot." Trevor waves him off. "Just wetlands. We'll drain them." You watch, silent, as his men dig small test pits. Water glistens up from nowhere. You can smell iron and clay, deep earth blood rising to defend itself. He notices your stare and smirks. "Nature's messy, but money cleans everything. You just say, 'Money don't float.'" He laughs, but there's a tremor now, something uncertain behind the sunglasses. Later, when the trucks leave for lunch, you walk to the spot where they marked the first stake. The soil there looks bruised. You kneel, scoop a bit, press it between your thumb and forefinger. Too wet, too loose. You know what that means? The water table's rising. This land remembers every insult, every cut. Your father's words echo from somewhere between heartbeat and thunder. Never fight the soil. Listen. It'll speak when you need it most. Back at the house, your neighbor, Mrs. Harlan, stops by with a basket of cornbread. "Saw them man setting poles again," she says. "You okay, baby?" You smile, tired. "They'll learn soon enough." She glances toward the horizon. Weather's been strange. The creek's louder at night. My daddy used to say when the earth starts talking back, it's about to shout. You nod. It's listening right now. That night, lightning crawls over the distant ridge. No rain yet, just electricity sketching warnings across the sky. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between flashes. Around midnight, a pickup's headlights sweep across your window. You pull on boots and step out. Trevor's SUV idles by your fence again. "He's alone this time. Couldn't sleep?" You ask. He leans out the window, hair damp with sweat. "I'll double the offer. Cash up front. I'm being generous before legal steps start. Once construction begins, this'll all be moot." You walk closer, the porch light catching the dust in the air. "Why so desperate?" He hesitates. Too long. Then, because the investors want movement. Delays cost money. Or maybe, you say softly, you know this ground don't want you. His eyes narrow. "You think dirt's alive?" "That's superstition." You lean in, voice calm. "It's not superstition. It's memory." For a moment, he just stares at you. Then he shakes his head, drives off hard, tires spinning mud against your gate. The next morning, you find a survey flag torn clean out of the ground. The poles bent, the flag smeared with wet clay. The wind didn't do that, the soil did. By noon, his team's back, planting new stakes. You watch from the field's edge. One worker removes his glove, rubs his arm. "Sir, my hand's burning," he says. Mud streaks up his wrist, red and rashy. Trevor sighs, annoyed. "Then wash it off." "It's just muck." You turn and walk away, hiding the small smile that creeps across your face. Not a smile of malice, one of knowing. The land's patient, but never powerless. People still argue whether farmers talk like prophets because they're poetic or because they've earned the right to be. But in places like this, prophecy and pattern are the same thing. You don't need visions when you have years of watching, listening, waiting. As you reach the porch again, a gust of wind rips through the field, scattering survey papers like startled birds. One page lands at your feet, a site plan marked Langford Development. Phase 1. You pick it up and see something strange. The lines cross through the lowland creek bed your father once told you was sacred ground, the spot where water always returns. You fold the page gently, slip it beside the contract in your jacket pocket. 2 warnings now, both written by the same hand that refused to listen. Thunder rolls again, closer this time. You whisper, the earth's getting restless. The first raindrop falls sideways, carried by wind sharp enough to sting. The storm isn't here yet, but it's coming. By dawn, the horizon looks bruised, that strange kind of quiet before the sky breaks open, when even the crickets hush, like they know something you don't. You step outside, coffee in hand, boots sinking slightly in the soft ground. The air smells like iron and ozone, the scent of soil and warning. Across the fence line, Trevor Langford's crew is already out there, dragging heavy cables, setting up concrete molds. He's shouting instructions through a megaphone, his white shirt already sticking to his chest in the wet heat. You watch him like you'd watch a man walking into his own trap, not out of cruelty, but inevitability. "Morning, old-timer," he yells over. "You might want to move your livestock uphill. We're clearing that south patch before noon." You look up at the dark shelf of clouds moving fast. "You sure about noon?" He laughs, cocky. "Forecast says drizzle." "Nothing serious." You tilt your head. "Forecast don't live here." He rolls his eyes and turns away. But one of his workers, a younger man, nervous, glances at you and whispers, "Sir, the creek's overflowing its banks already." Trevor waves him off. "Drainage will handle it, but you can see it. The ditch water is no longer clear." It's brown, thick, and restless. The land's pulse is rising. By mid-morning, the first wind hits, not violent yet, just strong enough to make the survey flags tremble like frightened birds. You see one of the new machines sink slightly into the muck. Trevor notices and yells, "Add gravel." "Keep pouring!" Gravel disappears into the mud like sugar in coffee. You can't help but mutter, "Soil don't take orders." Around noon, a black pickup rolls up your driveway. It's the county inspector, Mr. Kellum, a round man with more pride than sense. He steps out, clipboard in hand, face tight. "Mr. Davis," he starts. "Mr. Langford's filed a complaint. Claims you've been interfering with his equipment." You raise an eyebrow. "Interfering?" "Apparently you've been moving markers. Tampering with—" "You don't let him finish." "Ask the ground where they went." "I didn't touch a thing." He frowns. "The ground?" You just point toward the field. "Go see." He sighs, trudges off in his polished shoes. 2 minutes later, he's knee-deep in mud, boots stuck fast. You don't laugh, but your eyes do. By early afternoon, the sky turns the color of old bruise, purple, green, and gray twisting together. The wind screams through the corn like a warning siren. The first lightning strike hits somewhere beyond the ridge, close enough to make the air taste metallic. You see Trevor's men start to panic, tools dropping, shouts rising. The young one from earlier runs to his truck. Trevor yells after him, "Don't you dare leave the site!" But the man points toward the creek, voice shaking. "It's flooding the generator." Trevor spins and freezes. Water's pushing fast now, rolling over the edge of the unfinished foundation like a tide reclaiming what was taken. The machines hiss and sputter. You take a slow breath. "Told you it don't like being cut open." Within minutes, the storm becomes a full roar. Rain slashes sideways, heavy as gravel. Wind bends the trees, tears one of the survey tents in half. You move to your porch, steady hands gripping the railing as the earth begins to churn, not violently, but with a strange rhythm, like something ancient stretching awake beneath the mud. From across the field, You hear Trevor screaming orders no one can follow. Then, a deep crack. A sound like the world splitting open. The ground where his concrete mold stood sinks. Slow. Deliberate. The entire slab folds inward, swallowed by its own foundation. Trevor stumbles back, cursing, soaked and furious. "This is sabotage!" You shout over the wind, "It's memory!" He stares at you, eyes wide, disbelief warring with fear. "What the hell are you talking about?" You step down into the mud, every word measured. "You think you're building on dirt. But this," you tap the ground with your boot. "This is generations. Sweat, burials, prayers. You can't build over something still alive." He opens his mouth to argue, but thunder interrupts him, deafening. Behind him, a half-buried sign topples over, the one his crew planted that morning. Langford Estates, coming spring 2025. The sign disappears beneath rushing brown water. By the time the storm hits its peak, you can't see more than a few feet ahead. You retreat inside, listening to the roof creak and the world groan. The lights flicker, then die. But you don't feel fear, only certainty. Your father used to say, "When the earth's angry, it don't destroy, it rebalances." You whisper it now, barely audible over the storm. Rebalancing's right on time. When the rain finally slows, you step back out. The air is thick and silent again, but the silence feels new, cleansed. The field looks unrecognizable. Trevor's vehicle's half submerged. Survey flags gone. Concrete molds cracked like broken shells, and standing in the middle of it all, Trevor Langford himself, drenched, staring down at the flooded ruin of his plans. He doesn't shout. He doesn't curse. He just stares, like he's finally seen something that can't be bought or bulldozed. You walk up beside him, boots sinking into the soaked ground. He doesn't look at you, just mutters, "This land, it shouldn't have done this." You answer quietly, "It didn't do it to you. It did it for itself." A pause. Then, softer. "Some things protect their own." Lightning flashes one last time on the horizon. Faint and distant, like applause from the heavens. You tip your hat, turn back toward your porch, and leave him standing there, surrounded by the empire he tried to build, sinking inch by inch into the soil he never understood. Morning comes gray and swollen with aftermath, the kind of stillness that hums, not peace, but aftermath. You open your door and step out barefoot onto the porch. The boards are slick, cool underfoot. The storm's gone, but it left its fingerprints everywhere. The cornfields glisten with mud, heavy and bent. The creek's wider now, swollen past its banks. And there, half buried in the muck, lies what's left of Trevor Langford's grand project. Twisted rebar, drowned machinery, and a trailer half-tipped like a sinking ship. You breathe deep. The air smells like copper and clay, the scent of truth unburied. From the distance, you hear the sputter of an engine. Trevor's SUV limps up the dirt road, one headlight out, fender bent. He steps out wearing yesterday's clothes. Mud-caked, eyes bloodshot. He stands there for a long while, staring at the wreckage like a man looking at his own reflection. Finally, he says quietly, "Insurance will call this an act of God." You lean against a post, arms folded. "Then maybe God still acts around here." He lets out a small, humorless laugh. "You think this is divine punishment?" "No," you say. "It's divine patience finally snapping." He looks up, something breaking in his face. Not pride, but confusion. "You talk like this land's alive." It is. He stares at the mud again, and his voice cracks, almost a whisper. "I thought I could control it." My father, he used to say the same thing you did, about listening. I never believed him. You tilt your head. "Your father farmed?" He nods, slow. "Before the bank took our land?" Said weather didn't take it. Arrogance did. You study him for a long moment. Maybe that's why you keep trying to own someone else's ground. Trying to beat the thing that beat him. His jaw tightens, but he doesn't deny it. Instead, he kneels in the mud, picks up a handful of soil and squeezes. It oozes between his fingers like regret. I wanted to build something lasting, he says. Guess I forgot what lasting really means. You watch him. Not with pity, with something quieter. Recognition. Lasting ain't what stands tall. It's what roots deep. He looks at you, eyes clearer now. Maybe I should have asked how you kept this place alive all these years. You shrug. I didn't keep it alive. It kept me. Later that afternoon, the county inspector returns, this time with a new crew and a notebook. He eyes the mess and mutters, a total loss. Foundations shifted, drainage collapsed. We'll have to mark this zone unstable. Trevor doesn't argue. He just signs the form in silence. The inspector turns to you. Strange thing, though. The old records show this floodplain was registered a century ago, and then removed during rezoning. Someone must have buried that file. You raise an eyebrow. Buried, huh? He nods, flipping pages. You know what's stranger? The original land survey lists the owner as Davis Family Holdings. Your grandfather, right? You glance toward Trevor, who looks away. Guess history dug itself back up. The inspector sighs and heads back to his truck, leaving the two of you standing there, the mud drying, the wind shifting back to calm. That evening, while cleaning debris from the edge of your field, you find something shining half buried near the creek, a brass nameplate, dulled by time. You wash it in a bucket and read the engraving, Langford and Davis Agricultural Co-op, 1932. For a moment, your hands freeze. Then it clicks. The name, the year, the partnership. You look toward Trevor, who's sitting by his ruined truck staring at the horizon. Your people and mine, you call out, used to work this land together. He blinks, startled. What? You walk over, hand him the nameplate. Before all this, before the banks, before the zoning maps, our grandfathers shared this soil. Yours ran the mills, mine ran the fields. Guess the earth remembers even if we forget. He turns the plate over in his hands. Maybe that's why it wouldn't let me take it. Maybe it wasn't mine to claim alone. You nod. It never was about ownership. It's about stewardship. He exhales, long and heavy, like he's been holding that breath for years. As the sun sets, the sky bleeds gold over the soaked fields. You and Trevor stand side by side. Not friends, not enemies. Just two men finally quiet enough to listen. You say softly, the land don't keep grudges, but it don't forget either. He looks at the ruined site, then back at you. What happens now? You smile faintly. Now you learn. Same way the soil teaches. Slow, hard, and honest. A hawk circles overhead, catching the last orange light. The creek murmurs low, not angry anymore, just steady. You take off your hat, hold it to your chest. My daddy used to say the earth gives one warning before it takes. You just got yours. Trevor nods, quiet. Guess I needed to hear it from the right voice. You look at him, soaked, humbled, changed. For the first time, you see not a developer, but a man finally standing on the land instead of over it. And as the light fades, a soft rain starts again, gentle this time, like forgiveness washing everything clean. The next morning dawns clear, the kind of quiet that follows revelation, not just rain. Sunlight stretches across the soaked fields like forgiveness laid bare. You stand on the porch, coffee steaming, watching fog lift from the soil. The world smells clean again. But something beneath that freshness stirs. Not unease exactly, but unfinished business. Trevor's truck still sits by the edge of your drive, dented and silent. He hasn't left. When you walk over, you find him in the barn, sleeves rolled up, brushing mud off an old wooden chest that must have washed out from under the rafters during the flood. Didn't mean to dig through your stuff, he says, breathless. But this fell open. You glance inside. Damp papers, faded ledgers, a photo in a cracked frame, two men standing shoulder to shoulder in front of this very barn. One black, one white. Both young, both proud. Your breath catches. That's my granddad. Elijah Davis. Trevor leans closer, voice low. And that's mine. Walter Langford. The silence stretches, thick and holy. You both stare at the image, trying to map familiarity in the faces, the jaw lines, the posture, the quiet grit. He flips over the photo. There's handwriting on the back, smudged but legible. Partnership means soil doesn't care who plants, only that both believe it'll grow. For a moment, neither of you speaks. Then Trevor lets out a broken laugh. Guess they were smarter than both of us, you chuckle softly. Guess so. He wipes a sleeve across his eyes, leaving a streak of mud. You ever hear about this? Never, you say. Granddad talked about tough times, about people who came and went. Never said one of them was a Langford. He nods, still staring at the photo. My father told me Walter lost everything in the drought of '34. Spent his last years bitter. Said the Davises took his land. You shake your head slowly. That ain't how my folks told it. They said the banks came for everyone. White, black, didn't matter. Only difference was, some names got written in ink, others in pencil. He sinks onto a hay bale, exhaling hard. So the anger I inherited wasn't even aimed right. You look out at the fields, shimmering with dew. Anger's like floodwater. It starts honest, ends messy, but it always leaves a mark. He nods again, staring at his boots. I've spent my whole life building over old wounds. Maybe it's time to dig under them instead. The day passes slow. You both work side by side, clearing debris, pulling soaked branches off the fence, hauling broken panels into the shed. There's no tension anymore. Only the kind of silence people share when they've stopped pretending. By noon, the sun burns high. Trevor wipes his forehead. You ever think about selling? You glance up from your work. Only when I forget why I stayed. He studies you. Why did you? You smile faintly. Because leaving would have meant they won. All of them. The ones who said this dirt wasn't worth a dime. The ones who thought sweat could be bought. My daddy died here. I figured I'd live enough for both of us. Trevor lowers his gaze. I spent years thinking success meant erasing the past. Maybe that's why nothing I built ever felt rooted. You hand him a glass of water. Roots don't grow in glass towers. He laughs quietly. The first real laugh you've heard from him. You got a quote for everything, huh? Only the ones that keep me from cussing. After lunch, while sorting the papers from the old chest, Trevor finds something else. A folded envelope sealed with brittle wax. No address. Just 2 initials, E.D. He looks at you. Yours? You nod. Elijah Davis. You break the seal carefully. Inside is a letter dated 1934, written during the drought. To my brother in work, Walter, if this land ever passes to others, tell them it was never ours to own. It was ours to protect. If the storms come and wash our names away, let whoever remains know. The soil don't forget the hands that cared for it. The paper trembles slightly in your grip. Trevor whispers, He called him brother. You nod, swallowing hard. That's because they were. You both sit in silence a long time. Dust motes dance in shafts of light cutting through the barn slats. The world outside hums, cicadas, wind, life continuing. Finally, Trevor says, I can't fix what my company did, but I can stop what's next. You look at him. Meaning? He stands, shoulders squared. I'll withdraw the zoning petition. The resort's dead. The land stays as it is. You blink. You'd do that? After everything you lost? He smiles faintly. Maybe it's not a loss. Maybe it's the first thing I've earned. He walks outside, takes a deep breath of wet air, then kneels, actually kneels, and presses a hand to the ground. Guess I needed to apologize to the only one who'll listen. You watch him, a man half broken, half reborn. Careful, you say softly. She listens close. He glances up. Then maybe she'll forgive me. The sky answers with a soft roll of thunder, distant but kind. People still argue whether the land remembers, or whether it just mirrors what's inside us. But standing there, watching a man humbled by soil and silence, you realize memory and mercy might just be the same thing. You slip the letter back into its envelope and tuck it into your jacket. Looks like our grandfathers were partners once, you say. Maybe it's time their grandsons were too. Trevor nods. I'd like that. The barn creaks as the wind picks up again. Gentle this time, and for the first time in years, the farm doesn't feel like it's waiting to prove anyone wrong. It feels like it's ready to grow again. The next few days move like a quiet reckoning, steady, deliberate, cleansing. The valley that once echoed with tension now hums with something else entirely. Restoration. You rise early, boots sinking into damp soil, and watch mist drift low between the rows. The land looks tired, yes, but not defeated. It looks alive. Trevor's still around. He camps out in what's left of his construction trailer, stripped of luxury, sleeping on a cot like a man learning humility from the ground up. Every morning he walks the perimeter with you, notebook in hand, jotting things down, crop rotations, water flow, soil pH. He asks questions you never thought you'd hear from a developer. What's it mean when the earth cracks near the north field? Means she's thirsty but not dying. And when the corn leans left before a storm? Means it trusts the wind more than you do. He laughs each time, like a student humbled by his own ignorance. Sometimes, in those pauses between questions, you catch him just listening. Not to you, but to the world, the hum of bees, the slow drip of dew, the murmur of the creek mending its banks, and you realize that maybe this, more than any signature or speech, is what healing looks like. Not words, not deals, but someone finally shutting up long enough to hear what's been speaking all along. By midweek, the county sends a surveyor to reassess the flood zone. A young black woman steps out of a white pickup, clipboard in hand, boots spotless, but eyes sharp, like she's seen both city marble and country mud. "Morning," she says. "Name's Jasmine. State sent me to evaluate post-flood integrity." Trevor tries to put on his usual professional tone. "Of course. We're just here to—" She cuts him off gently. "You're Langford, right? The developer whose project collapsed?" He winces. "That's one way to put it." She glances toward you, recognizing your calm stance. "And you must be Mr. Davis. This is your land?" You nod. "Has been for generations. Trying to make sure it stays that way." She smiles, writing something on her form. "I respect that. My granddaddy used to say, land's the only thing that outlives your name. If you treat it right." You grin. "Sounds like he and my daddy would have gotten along." Trevor shifts awkwardly. "So what happens now? Will the state penalize the site?" Jasmine looks around. The toppled beams, the half-healed soil, the creek winding free again. "Honestly, nature already penalized you enough. I'll file it as act of natural correction." He blinks. "Is that even a category?" She smirks. "It is now." You chuckle quietly as she walks off, boots sinking deep in the mud. That night, the two of you sit on the porch with the radio humming softly. Some old soul station out of Baton Rouge, the kind that plays songs your father used to whistle while fixing the tractor. Fireflies wink across the dark fields. Trevor leans back, eyes on the stars. "Funny, I used to think success meant having a skyline view. Turns out you can't see half the stars from up there." You sip your tea. "Too much light blinds you, even if it's fancy." He grins. "You ever think about writing a book?" "You got more metaphors than a preacher." You laugh. "Nah, I just pay attention." Then, after a long pause, you add, "You know, my daddy used to tell me the earth don't punish people. It just mirrors them. If you're cruel, it cracks. If you're patient, it blooms." Trevor nods slowly. "Then I guess it's showing me my reflection." You tilt your head. "And what do you see?" He exhales. "Someone who finally stopped building walls and started digging roots." Later that week, a storm warning flickers across the radio again. But this time, you don't tense up. You glance at the sky, see only soft clouds drifting like breath. Trevor looks uneasy. "You think it'll flood again?" You shake your head. "Not this one. This one's just here to rinse, not ruin." He studies you. "You really trust it that much?" You smile faintly. "No, I respect it that much." He falls silent, considering that. Respect, not control, not ownership. It's a word he's still learning how to carry. By Sunday, word of the flood spreads online, photos of the wrecked resort site. Stories about the farmer who refused to sell. Reporters start calling, sniffing for drama. You turn them all down except one, a local paper run by an old friend of your late father. They print a single headline: "Storm spares family farm, teaches developer a lesson about roots." It's not flashy, not viral, but it's true. And truth, like rain, doesn't need an audience to do its work. That evening, Trevor approaches you with something in his hand, a small sealed envelope. It's the land title transfer, he says quietly. I'm returning full ownership, legally, permanently. You hesitate. I thought you already withdrew. I did, he says. But this makes sure no one else in my company tries again. It's yours, and it'll stay that way. You take the envelope. It feels heavier than paper should. You sure about this? He nods. For once in my life, yeah. I am. You extend your hand. He shakes it, firm, steady, equal. The kind of handshake that seals more than business. It seals understanding. As the last light fades, you both stand quietly watching the fireflies scatter over the wet grass. The wind moves through the fields like a sigh. Funny thing, Trevor says softly. I came here to change this land. Looks like it changed me instead. You smile. That's how it works. You don't teach the soil, you let it teach you. He nods, gaze distant. Guess I had to lose everything to finally learn something real. You look toward the horizon where your father used to stand at sunset, and for the first time in years, the silence feels whole, not empty. Some say storms destroy, but sometimes they just tell the truth louder than we can bear to admit. Morning comes soft, not with thunder, not with wreckage, but with quiet. The kind of quiet that feels earned. Dew clings to every blade of grass, the fields shimmer like they've forgiven the world overnight. You're standing by the old oak when you hear tires crunching the gravel road. A familiar pickup rolls to a stop. The door opens and out steps a woman in a tailored navy suit, polished, purposeful, but her eyes are kind. Mr. Davis? She calls out. You nod. That's me. She smiles, pulling a folder from her bag. I'm with the County Heritage Board. We got word about your farm and the flood that saved it. You chuckle. That's one way to phrase it. She hands you a document. The state's classifying your land as historically significant agricultural property. That means protection from future development. Permanent. You take the papers slowly, the words almost too big to fit in your chest. So no one can buy it out again? She shakes her head. No one. Not a developer, not a company, not even the state. This land's part of history now, and yours. You glance toward the horizon. The fields stretch wide and alive. Guess she finally got the respect she deserved. The woman smiles softly. Seems she had to fight for it. But then again, so did you. As she drives away, you stand there holding the document like a prayer written on government paper. For the first time in years, the soil feels secure beneath your boots. Trevor shows up that evening. Sleeves rolled, face calmer than you've ever seen it. Heard about the heritage status, he says. That's huge. Yeah, you say, watching the wind stir the grass. Biggest thing that ever happened here, besides the storm. He looks down at his boots, kicking a clod of dirt. I've been thinking, he says slowly. You ever consider teaching this stuff? Soil, crops, all of it. You could change how people build, how they see land. You laugh. Me, a teacher? Why not? He says earnest. You already taught me. And trust me, that was no small job. You study him for a moment. The man who once laughed at your fields, now standing in them like he's found church. Maybe, you say. But first I got to tend what's still growing. Weeks pass. The flood damage fades, replaced by green shoots pushing through rich black earth. The neighbors come by to help rebuild. Old farmers, young kids, folks who once doubted if you'd make it. They bring casseroles, fence wire, stories, and as they work, you realize something bigger is taking root, not just crops, but community. You start teaching the local kids how to test soil by smell and texture. Dirt tells you when it's happy, you explain. You just gotta learn her language. Trevor's there too, still volunteering. One afternoon, a group of school kids points at him, whispering, "Isn't that the man who tried to build the resort?" Trevor nods, awkward but honest. That's me. And I was wrong. You add, now he's learning the right way, from the ground up. The kids giggle. The tension breaks. And for the first time, you see Trevor smile without shame. A month later, the first harvest after the flood comes in. Sweet corn, plump and golden. You load up a basket and drive to the local market. People greet you like a neighbor again, not a relic. One woman says, "Heard the soil fought for you." You grin. Guess she didn't like strangers telling her what to do. That evening, you walk the fields one last time before sundown. The sky burns in shades of copper and gold. Fireflies flicker like little blessings across the rows. Trevor joins you quietly. You ever think your father saw this coming? You nod. He always said storms don't come to destroy. They come to clear the view. He looks out over the horizon, where your crops sway in rhythm with the wind. Then I guess we can see clear now. You smile. Clear enough to plant the next season right. As you part ways at the gate, Trevor turns back. Mr. Davis, he says softly, thank you for not hating me when you had every reason to. You pause. I did hate you, you admit. But the land, she don't grow hate. Only lessons, he nods, eyes glistening. Then I hope I keep learning. You will, you say. If you stay humble, he laughs faintly. That's the hardest crop to grow. You watch him drive off as dusk settles. The fields hum softly, full of life, full of forgiveness. The land's not just yours anymore. It's part of a larger story, a lesson carved into the soil, whispered by the wind, proven by the storm. And in that fading light, you finally understand what your father meant when he said, the earth don't need us to believe in her. She just needs us to listen. The storm might have taken buildings, but it gave something far greater, truth. The harvest moon hangs high, swollen, golden, and patient. The kind of moon your father used to say, watches over good men when they sleep, and the land when they can't. You're not sleeping tonight. You're sitting on the porch steps, hat low, fingers tracing the rim of a chipped coffee mug. The air smells like wet soil and sweet grass. That scent only farms know how to make. From here, the rebuilt barn gleams faintly in the moonlight. The fence line is straight again. The crops stand tall. But something in you knows, this story isn't really about land anymore. It never was. It's about faith. Faith that what's buried in the dark will one day rise. Faith that storms don't come to punish, but to reveal. Faith that truth, like soil, can't be paved over. Not for long. You set the mug down and pull out an old, weathered photograph. Your father standing right where you are. 20 years younger, arms folded, that stubborn smile that could challenge God himself. Behind him, the same oak tree, the same fields, the same sense of quiet defiance. Storm got him too, you whisper, voice barely above the wind. But not the way they think, because deep down, you know what no court or camera or headline can say. The flood wasn't just nature's accident. It was the land remembering who fought for her. It was every drop of rain, every gust of wind, every crack of thunder saying, you don't own me. You respect me, and in that truth lies the hidden victory. Trevor didn't just lose a resort. He lost the illusion of control. He learned, like every man who's ever thought money could command the earth, that nature has her own loyalty. And she remembers who tends her gently, who listens, who waits. Days later, you drive into town to deliver corn to the food bank. When you arrive, there's Trevor again, sleeves rolled, unloading boxes with the same hands that once held blueprints for your destruction. He looks up, nods, and says simply, "Morning, Mr. Davis." You nod back. No speeches, no grand gestures, just the silent truth between two men who've seen what pride costs and what grace restores. A reporter nearby asks, "Why do you still farm after everything you've been through?" You pause, gaze toward the horizon where the storm first came from and say, "Because the land never gave up on me, even when people did." The camera clicks. Flash. But that picture, that one, becomes the headline that outlives the flood. The lawsuits. The greed. Farmer who refused to sell land, now teaching developers how to build with nature, not over it. Funny thing is, the article goes viral not for your defiance, but for your forgiveness. Weeks later, a letter arrives. No return address, just a short note in clean handwriting. You were right. Storms don't destroy. They just show us what was weak. I'm trying to build stronger now. You fold it gently and tuck it inside the same pocket where Trevor once left that contract. Same place. Same paper. Different story. You smile. That'll do. As the sun sets, you walk one last round of the field. Fireflies dance low over the rows, blinking like tiny reminders that light always finds a way back. You press your hand into the dirt, still damp, still warm, and whisper, "We made it, old friend. You and me." The soil hums faintly beneath your palm, almost like it's breathing, almost like it's answering. The wind stirs, and for a moment, you swear you hear your father's voice again, soft, certain, and proud. Told you the land keeps her promises. You look up at the sky, endless, dark, and full of quiet thunder in the distance. And for the first time, you don't fear the next storm because you know what it means now. It's not warning, it's memory. It's the sound of justice taking shape, in clouds, in roots, in truth. The kind of justice that doesn't need courts or contracts. Just proof. And as the first breeze of another coming storm brushes your cheek, you smile and say, "Come on then, let's see what lesson you've got this time." The wind answers, low, steady, and certain, carrying the scent of rain and redemption across the valley. Fade to black. Title card, rich developer. Mocked a black farmer's land until a storm. Proved who knew the soil, if this story reminded you that nature doesn't choose sides, it remembers. Who listens? Then go ahead and smash that subscribe button and ring that bell for more real stories of courage and poetic justice. Have you ever seen someone underestimated? Because of their roots, their accent, or the dirt on their hands? Share it in the comments below. Your experience might just plant the seed for our next viral story about truth, dignity, and redemption. And here's a little challenge for the sharp-eyed viewers. There's a quiet moment around mine at 7:03 when Elijah presses his palm into the soil that secretly reveals what he already knew before the storm ever hit. Watch again and tell us, what detail did you notice in that scene that hinted the land was on his side all along? Because out here in the fields and in life itself, every drop, every seed, every silence is evidence.